This is a book review on Paint Me Rainbows by Fern. It's a library book. It's hardback and large print. Very small, very short read, but I still read it in depth. And I can say that the male character was very much covered in this book. You knew his background, you knew everything about him. However, Jill Barton, the other character in the book, you didn't. And by the end, you still didn't. All you knew is that she was a secretary in an advertising company, and that's all you got told. She looked upon Angie as the grandmother figure, which was fine. It made the book much more unusual in that, and the dog, the red setter, had the starring role. He was the central point in all their lives, which was brilliant. This is an extract reading from Paint Me Rainbows by Fern. When Angie and Jill had finished putting away the last box, they stood back to admire their work. The kitchen had been transformed. Bows of evergreen draped the exposed beams and the door lintels. Bright red ribbons added a gay note, and a myriad of candles stood waiting to be lighted. Everything was polished and gleaming, ready for the night before Christmas. Angie went about her last-minute chores, humming "I'll Be Home for Christmas," and then switched to "I'll Wish You a Merry Christmas" when they went off to their bedrooms to dress for the church service. Jill chose to wear a bright red woolen dress that tugged her waist and fell in soft gathers over her hips. The little front, with its buttoned-down collar and short sleeve, enhanced her diminutive figure. A simple addition of a gold chain and bracelet, accompanied by tiny gold hoops in her ears, were her only jewelry. Her shining, long blonde hair was sleeked back and lifted onto the top of her head, its soft tendrils escaping and falling on her cheeks and the nape of her neck. The tall black boots gleamed in the lamplight. A new beige cashmere coat, her only luxury in years, was belted at the waist. When she finally put on her bright red muffler and red gloves, she was ready. "Coming, Angie. I'm all set. What should I do with Dozy? He is not safe to leave alone in the kitchen. I'm convinced he can open the refrigerator door, and that would be the end of our Christmas dinner." Angie laughed. "Not to mention all the cookies and candies we baked. Better put him downstairs here in the bedroom where he can't do much damage." Angie looked lovely, her grey hair covered with a close-fitting fur hat and a black woolen coat. The galoshes on her feet did nothing to distract from her glowing face and sparkling eyes. On impulse, Jill snapped a tip of the Christmas tree and tied a red ribbon and 2 tiny Christmas balls to it. With the help of a safety pin, she placed the courgette on Angie's collar. "Now you're perfect. You're ready. Oh, really are, Angie," she said, with a soft voice on the edge of tears. "I want you to know that you've made this one of the happiest holidays I've ever known. I love you, Angie." "Puss, child." "I know that." Angie wiped a tear from her eyes and hugged Jill tightly. "I feel as though you are my own child, and I only want the best for you. Sometimes I'm interfering, and I just want you to know that whatever I do, it's because you mean the world to me. Come on now, or we'll be late." The little yellow car hugged the road admirably, taking them the 5 miles to church. The black winter night sky was studded with stars, and in town coloured Christmas lights dazzled the eye. The tall steepled church was alive with light and humanity. People greeted each other and shook hands, wishing the best of the holidays. There was a peacefulness in the air, a reverence that shone from their eyes. Inside was the scent of evergreen adorning the pulpit. Tiny candles glowed, and the choir stood at easy attention in their cranberry-coloured robes. The nativity scene had been erected at the front of the church, and all eyes turned to the empty manger that awaited the placement of the Christ child figure at the stroke of 12. Angie led the way into the pew, Jill right behind her. Although the church was crowded and every seat was needed, Angie ignored Jill's proddings to push over, instead leaving a room between herself and the last man on the long bench. The church filled rapidly, and several times someone came down the aisle expectantly waiting for Angie to push in. Each time she refused. The organ resounded from the rafters, filling the small interior of the church with music and voices, and a hush fell over the congregation as the preacher took his place at the pulpit to recite the story of Christmas. Jill's eyes touched on the people surrounding her, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers. Everyone seemed to have someone, everyone but herself. Instinctively, she nestled closer to Angie, appreciating the woman's presence and taking comfort from it. Everyone had someone, and so did she. She had Angie. The minister instructed the congregation to rise and open their hymn books at 139. Silent Night. Together they lifted their voices in song, filling the small church with sound. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. A jostling at her elbow insisted that Jill move over. Remarkably, Angie had slid over, making room, allowing Jill to admit the stranger beside her into the pew. Without looking up from her hymn book, following the words to the carol's obscure second stanza, Jill continued singing, lifting her voice along with the congregation's. A bold hand took one side of her hymn book, sharing it with her, and a deep masculine voice joined hers in song. Jill turned and looked up, her knees nearly buckling under her. Logan! His eyes smiled down at her. Throughout the remainder of the service, Jill's heart thumped madly in her chest. Logan, what was he doing here? The parts that really interested me was the extract I just read as well, because that interplay on the relationships between them was what pulled me to keep going with this story. And also the fact that how they felt about what their pastimes, basically her reading a book of poetry and architecture, and him being on the beach painting, and how he felt about his paintings and how everybody felt about his paintings. And that was explained very well in the book, and that to me made the story very well worth reading. And it did make me feel of Christmassy things like eggnog and snuggling up in front of the fire and the Christmas tree decorated and things like that. So thank you for watching this book review. Bye.